And then the following weekend, I went to Eufaula, Alabama for my family reunion. I went down there for a family reunion. And when some people heard that I was coming, they set up some speaking engagement for me while I was there. Well, the first thing that happened is that I hosted the family reunion. I was surprised that I was able to do that or allowed to do it. Because in my family, up until that time, I thought I was the only Republican. So I had, Huckabee was there as well, right down the hall. The Republican Party of Eufaula, Barber County, down in Eufaula, Alabama, was hosting Huckabee. And they had asked me to speak there too, but I couldn't because of the reunion thing. So what I did was I told my family members when I opened up our event, I said I was invited to speak at Huckabee's event right down the hall, but since this was happening, I couldn't. But I told them that I'm going to register my entire family as Republicans when the reunion is over. And they go, oh, shut up. They were getting all mad just from that. And then when they got mad at me, I said, oh, I love teasing Democrats. They can't take anything. That didn't help it either. Move on. They were like all upset. And at the end of the reunion, well, just before the end, I asked them to show their hands of any Republican in the house. Nobody raised their hands. But when it was all over, I had two cousins who I had never met before, my first time meeting them. They secretly told me that they were Republicans, but they said there was no way I was going to raise my hand in this crowd. And so they were afraid to let my family member know that they were Republicans. Isn't that amazing? Black Republicans are hated that much that even in your own family, you can't let them know that you are unless you're ready to deal with it. But I had a whole lot of fun messing with them. I just messed with them through the whole thing. And I had a hootenette. I had them laughing too. I had a lot of fun. And then I was invited to speak at a church in Midway, Alabama, in the city of Spring Hill. And it was an all-white church. I used to pass that church every morning going to school, on the school bus. And I remember looking out the window at that church. And I've never seen anybody go in and out of that church in the whole 12 years that I went past. I never saw one soul go in or out. And I realize now maybe because it was Monday through Friday when I was going past that church. And they invited me to speak there at that particular church. And when my family members found out that I was speaking, they went off. They're like, don't do it. These people are racist. They would not allow you in there before. I'm not going in there. I don't tell them what they're going to do to me. They were like really against it, and nobody went with me. You know, I was inviting them to go just for the fun of it. And this church has a lot of history because the slaves used to go there too. The white people sat downstairs and they had a balcony for the slaves upstairs to sit down and be a part of the service. They even have some they have some Civil War soldiers buried there, unnamed soldiers buried there. And they'd have them buried on this tree. They plant these two trees at the time they buried the unknown soldiers, and the trees are tall. And they plant benches there so you can sit there, sometimes have church service in favor of those guys, support of those guys. But a lot of white folks showed up, and they had a good time. They were inspired. They looked at themselves, and they understand better now what's going on with the races. So when they announced that I was coming, a lot of people showed up to that church. And I said to my family members, if you are of God, how are you going to refuse to go and talk to the white folks just because their ancestors did you wrong? You know, you can't be of God and be hated like that. Even if, let's say that, even if they were actually the slave masters themselves and an opportunity came to go and speak the truth to them, I would still go because we're not allowed to hold anything against anyone. So I had a good time there. And then Sunday night, I was invited to speak at another white church in Eufaula, Alabama. And that was good, too. I was challenged in that church by some liberal Christian women, white women, about the government paying for contraception for women. They're like, why you don't want that to happen? I said, the same reason I wouldn't want to pay for contraception is my daughters decided they wanted to have sex, and they come to me and say, you know what, Dad, I'm ready to have sex. Would you pay for the contraception? Well, I'm going to say yes. And so they were going back and forth with me. They tried to prevent me from speaking there. They printed out some articles, were passing them out before I got there. And so I said to the pastor, wow, your congregation making you look bad. But he knew about them already. That was fun. I had a good time there. And then I had to stay an extra night and spoke at the Kiwanis luncheon at noon. And then at that night, the Republican Party of Barber County had an event. They were having their meeting, and they invited me to come. It was a packed house. We had a really, really good time. So that's where I've been. And so this weekend, I was in Wichita Falls, speaking to a constitutional party there yesterday. And that was fun, too. Had a good time. Getting the word out there. I'm ready to be out on the road, putting it out there, you know what I'm saying? Because people are hearing the truth and they're being inspired by it. You guys are used to it. You hear it all the time. So much now, it's kind of, you don't even hear it most of the time, right? Yeah. But so that's where I've been. And I thank God for those opportunities. I go wherever they open up. And we're getting the word out there, getting the truth out there, saving lives and families. When I was a kid growing up, I literally, and I don't know why, I literally thought black people did not sin. I used to think it was white people who were sinning. Because black people kept their stuff so private that they were doing. You didn't really hear about it and talk about it. And my uncles used to go up to upstate New York during the summer to pick oranges and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they would come back home and they had all these stories about white people. The white homosexuals, the white this and white that. I'm like, wow, that's something about how white people sin and we don't. I thought that for a long time. My cousin, when I was down on a trip recently down in Eufaula, he lives down there, and he went to this engagement with me with the Barber County Republican thing, meeting, and he was like, wow, this is something else to be amongst white people like this down here. I know what he meant because when I was growing up, we were not with white folks, right? So when I went back to visit, it seemed strange to be around white people in Alabama. And so he was like fascinated by it. And he told me the story that once he and his sister, when he was a little boy, he and his older sister went walking by this white church that I'm telling you about. And he said he saw grave sites out there around the church because in the South, they didn't put the graveyard away from the church. It was right in the same location. He said when he walked by that church, he was shocked to see dead white people. He said because he knew that white people had a white Jesus, and he said that because they had a white Jesus, he thought white people did not die. And there's something, as a kid, he literally thought that he thought they'd die. I understand it because the devil messed with your mind in all kinds of ways. But he realized that they do die now. And that Jesus was Jewish and not white. So that helps. Good morning. Welcome to the Bond Sunday Morning Services. Thank you so much for being with me. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. You can get involved anywhere in the world by calling 800-411-2663, 800-411-BOND.